Welcome to a look into the life of a Tudong Buddhist monk, an American who has lived in a cave sanctuary for the last 15 years in Thailand. The Tudong monks are some of the most revered and follow the strictest rules set down by the Buddha himself over 2,600 years ago. These are wandering, barefoot, forest-dwelling monks, most often found in isolated places, following the 227 rules that were laid down by the Buddha, plus maintaining strict and disciplined meditation practice. The monk's name is Ajahn Sumano Bhikkhu, which means one with a good heart, striving to come to the end of the world. Ajahn Sumano was born in Chicago. He was a law student, was an entrepreneur with a very successful business, lived the corporate fast lane lifestyle until he dropped it all. Began his journey on the spiritual path over the past 30 years, from America to England to India through Malaysia and eventually Thailand, to where for the past 20 years he's lived in solitude, serenity, and meditation. Join us as we journey together to his home in the forest, where after being greeted by Ajahn Sumano, we offered food, which is a custom when visiting a Buddhist monk. And as our camera crew went about setting up their equipment, we found ourselves seated comfortably in this natural forest setting. Ajahn, who was most gracious and poised, made us feel so at ease as he began by telling me, the emphasis on knowing who you are is the priority. I then began asking this Buddhist monk questions about hope, happiness, meditation, birth, aging, death, karma, freedom, life's real purpose, our duties, and more. As we spoke, listened, and recorded, we became aware of the dignity, compassion, and deep wellspring of Buddhist wisdom that came from this monk in the mountain, to whom we brought our questions from the city and truly got our answers from the forest. John?
Nice to see you.
Thanks for having us. I have compiled a few questions, and I figured I would just put the questions out and see what you thought about answering them. Can you tell us about meditation, what it is, and why do it?
It comes down to the basic question that's underneath that is, what's to do in this lifetime? Why are we here? What's it for? What's the point of it all? If we understand that, or at least we get a little bit of a sense of what that could be, we understand that we're really spiritual beings. We're here to learn. This is a learning environment. This is a learning situation. But what's to learn? Do we need to learn how to put kids' bicycles together, more software stuff? These things are okay. They're useful in the world. But the primary thing, the thing that's most important, is to learn who we are. If we don't know who we are, how can we function in the world? We don't know our place. We don't know our purpose. We don't know what our best intention should be. We don't know what's skillful. We don't know what's ethical. We don't know anything. Essentially, we're disabled. And the meditation is the thing that activates and enables us, it empowers us. It empowers us to know the way things are in the present moment, who we are, why we're here, what's the point of things, how can we best use this short span called a lifetime to the best advantage, not only for ourselves, but for our friends, our family, our community, and the whole world.
Birth, aging, illness, and death. This is something that I hear Buddhists talk about.
This is the reality. If there's birth, there's going to be aging, there's going to be sickness, there's going to be death. Our whole focus for most of us is only on the birthing. And if you go to a hospital and you see people in the maternity wards and when babies are born, everybody's delighted. They love the birth cycle, the birth sequence. But the death cycle, the death sequence, people aren't interested in that. If we understand that these things are inevitable, if there's birth, there's going to be death. Sometimes people come to me and they say, oh, why did he have to die? He was so young. I mean, they say this about people who are 80, too. They say, he was so young, he had so much to live for. I say, well, because he was born, right? If you're born, you're going to die. But don't make that a problem. You don't even have to feel threatened by that, because after birth is what? The cycle continues. After death, you're going to have birth. After birth, you're going to have death. Stuff in between is, we don't know how long any of that will be, but we do know it's definite. If you got birth, you got death, and if you got death, you got birth. As long as there's that energy in the karmic thread, we can use for a word that I think we all can understand, as long as there's energy in that thread, there's going to be rebirth. When that rebirth happens, there's going to be death. And until we cut out that energy, that underlining all this, we're caught in this cycle. We can say almost indefinitely, until the wisdom arises and until you learn how to get out from underneath this burden of being a karmic entity.
When you say karmic entity and birth and death and the cycle, are you saying that the job here is actually to get out of that cycle? That
Exactly. It's exactly what I'm saying. What else is there to do? Do you want to continue doing this for another million years? Who knows how many millions of lifetimes you've already had? It's quite boring. Right? A mature mind will see that this is just the boring cycle of suffering, a little bit of pleasure, a lot more suffering, a little bit more pleasure. Essentially, that pleasure you can't even count, because the suffering is in the back all the time. It's the revert. It's going to come right up as soon as that moment of pleasure disappears. So essentially, we're in a suffering situation. The Buddhists use this word suffering, and for some people that seems a little bit strong. You can say unsatisfactory. It's an unsatisfactory situation, meaning that there's no possibility that we're ever going to feel a fulfillment in any mind moment at all. We can approach it, we can get close to it, we can hope, which is the way most of the world runs. We're never going to get to it. You got a body, you're going to suffer. That body, no matter what posture you're in, if you sit long enough in this posture, you're going to feel pain. If you stand long enough, you're going to feel pain. If you go out and exercise a bit, you're going to get tired. If you get tired, you're going to want to sleep. When you sleep, you're going to you're going to turn your body to the left, to the right. The whole thing having a body is a painful experience. The mind's the same thing. The mind, can you control it? Can you say, don't have these crazy thoughts? Don't even have these uncrazy thoughts. Can we tell the thought process to stop? No, we can't control it. It all runs on its own. Is this a good situation? This karmic predicament of ours, is this something enviable? No, we want to get out from under it. So when death comes and there's no karma, no need to get reborn again, this is it. You've won the jackpot.
John, the idea of we are not the mind, we are not who we think we are. I've read this before in Buddhism. We are not who we think we are.
Okay, if somebody is sensitive, if they're in a process of evolution, and you say to them, have you ever considered the fact that you're not who you think you are? If they don't dismiss that offhanded, we're in a position to talk about some very important understanding about the way things work. We think we're the body, we think we're the mind, but as you grow older, you start to get a sense maybe we're not the body, because you see people with bodies disappearing into the ground, into places where they cremate them. So the body is probably not a real thing, not something in the substantia that we call our own. We start to get a sense of that. As for the mind, after all the kind of so-called educational conditioning we get from the time we're about 4 or 5 years old, we certainly believe the mind is who we are. This kind of idea, I think, therefore I am. Isn't that true? If we were our mind, we could control it. Is there anybody watching this now that knows what their thoughts are going to be in the next 3-4 seconds? Nobody can do that. Thoughts arise and they pass away. And they pass away without us, because they're independent. It's just a machine. So we're not our body and we're not our mind. So where does that leave us? Think about that.